action. You're live.
Hello, Aptera fans. Welcome to our January webinar. We're here to talk about Aptera, our progress, our growth, and our future. We appreciate everyone that has been able to join. Appreciate all the support we've received over the last few years to get to the point we're here today. Some legal disclaimers, but really what we hope you're all here for is to support our mission. And we believe that every journey should be fully powered by the sun. We believe that the technology we bring to bear with efficient vehicles and solar can make the world a better place through more efficient transportation, through saving you money every day for your transportation costs, and the ability to have great utility out of your vehicle. You know, the Aptera has a lot of space, it has great range, it's peppy and has a lot of performance capabilities, but it all harkens back to us believing that solar power can really revolutionize transportation, and with your help we can get there. I'll go over the topics that we're going to cover today. I'm a lone soldier because Steve is off at a great trade show today showing off some of our advanced technologies, so he wasn't able to make it, but we'll bring Blake down a little later to talk through some of our offering specifics and answer questions for everyone, but it's just me, so bear with me as we work through this presentation and take questions from everyone that we'll hopefully answer at the end. So you can ask questions in the chat, and then they have to be approved, and then they'll ask me those questions towards the end here.
Yeah, the discussion board at the bottom of the offering.
The discussion board at the bottom of the offering. So you're looking at the video on the offering page, you got to scroll down to ask those questions. But please ask any questions you have, and we'll be happy to try to answer them, or we'll answer them in some other fashion. On the page, it keeps a record of those questions, so you can always go back to refer to those questions, and hopefully other people can be educated by your questions. So nothing's too out there. We're going to go over our milestones, things we've reached and accomplished so far, our funding path to production, sourcing and our partners, all the great people we've coalesced to bring the Aptera into production, our validation and testing plan, our production intent vehicle build plan, our initial production ramp, how we're actually going to get this vehicle into people's hands, and our rollout across the nation and across the world. And then we'll go into our growth and IPO strategy after that, so you can see where we're kind of headed long term. Ooh, that's a pretty building. Look at all those pretty Apteras out front. We have over 47,000 reservations for the Aptera now. It's incredible to think back to just a couple years ago when we had the launch video. We took Noir downtown and shot a little bit of footage way too late in the afternoon on a Friday. But we put out that video, and in just a couple weeks we had 4,000 or 5,000 orders, so we knew that this was going to be big time. But we've steadily increased those orders, and every day we get more and more orders, and it's just amazing to see how many people are supporting what we're doing. That totals about $1.7 billion in potential revenue off of those orders. So incredible potential. We'd love to be able to build those vehicles in a year, but it will take some time to get production going and get a plan fully funded to accomplish that. We've raised about $120 million so far, more than $100 million in just the crowdfunding. We built 5 prototypes over the last couple years. All those are drivable. They've been used in different ways and for different things. We had beta as an ever-evolving platform for suspension testing and stuff. It's actually now over in Italy. It hasn't come back from the last suspension calibration and testing that we did over there. But other vehicles that really showed the vision for solar mobility and helped us evolve our design into a production design that we're building right now. Suppliers and government partnership, it's been amazing to get support from the California Energy Commission. It's paying for a lot of the equipment behind me. We have a lot of things on order to build out our solar and battery line, and that's because of this wonderful grant that we got from the California Energy Commission. We also have our bill of materials well sorted. We'll go through a slide that talks about that. And we're looking forward to taking the company public. We think that as we get closer to production and we start to deliver vehicles, it'd be a great time to go public, and we'll go through why that's the case later in this presentation. And we have an amazing patent portfolio. Our engineers have created some amazing technologies. We've gone through the effort to patent a lot of that. We have 30 patents pending and 4 awarded. It takes forever to get patents through the patent office, sometimes 2 or 3 years. But we did start this process pretty early, and we are starting to show some fruit from that effort. But we did have an independent valuation of our IP portfolio, and it came back being a very, very valuable piece of Aptera. This is our current plan to production, cash flow positivity, and beyond. We're working right now to raise the $65 million we're talking about for 2024. Obviously, we're continuing our crowdfunding through this Reg CF, and we have an accredited round for Reg D investors. And with U.S. capital support, they'll fill in the rest of the funding needed for us to start production. But that first part of our plan, this 2024 raise, gets us to completing production intent vehicle builds, and it gets us to start a production and cash flow positivity. Specifically, the PI builds, we see it being a 10 to 16 vehicle program. Some of those vehicles may be used for multiple steps. It really depends on how the suppliers are ready to receive those vehicles, and sometimes their scheduling for validation and testing may not line up with certain vehicles, so it may take more vehicles because some suppliers may overlap. But if they run nice and organized, then maybe we can take a vehicle from one supplier and then just ship it to the other supplier, from testing the HVAC system to testing the ABS system. We'll also be able to complete all of our electrical systems. We have most of the control of that here because we control all of our own I/O boards. We control the infotainment computer. We control kind of all the electronics, the code, software, the firmware that runs the vehicle. So we're not beholden to any outside entities for that, but we have to fund that ourselves and finish the work here ourselves. And obviously, impact testing, crash testing, we're going to share that information with you as soon as we have it, but some of those PI builds will be destroyed for science, and we'll be able to learn a lot from those. But our simulation tools are so good now, and a lot of even automotive manufacturers, they don't have to crash test a lot of vehicles because the simulation tools are so good to show you exactly what's going to happen, what's going to fail, and how the vehicle is going to act in impact sequences. Our path to start a production and cash flow positivity is really about filling this building full of equipment and tooling and jigs and assembly stations to get the vehicles rolling. This current part of the plan is really to ramp production up to about 6,000 vehicles a year. Obviously, everything in this building is capable in one shift of producing 10,000 vehicles a year, so we're set up for that. But really, Blake's amazing job at creating our financial model has this first raise getting us to a production volume of about 6,000 vehicles a year, and that is cash flow positive. So that's kind of our first big next milestone, is get the vehicle into production, then get to cash flow positive. As soon as you're not burning money, it makes life just a lot easier. This first raise also unlocks the rest of the California Energy Commission money to buy our solar and battery equipment here. It's a matching grant, so we have to put in money to receive money from the California Energy Commission. So this capital raise does that. It also unlocks a lot of equipment financing. So as soon as we start to fill the facility and become a more valuable company, it's easier to get other financial companies to finance big pieces of equipment. So some of the assembly robots and some of the jigs and stuff for assembling the vehicles in station, some of that stuff can be financed. It's usually financeable because you can sell it to somebody else if you ever didn't need it any longer. So like like a lot of things, if it has kind of residual value, then the banks will loan on it. So we're hoping to be in a position with this raise to do a lot of that. Beyond that, looking into 2025, 2026, we're really talking about growing out of this plant, scaling beyond 20,000 vehicles a year, looking at IPO strategies, Department of Energy, grants and loan programs. We've been talking with a lot of international agencies in Europe, Italy, the Middle East, about grants and loan programs in those areas. But how do we grow from a facility that can produce 20,000 vehicles a year into many facilities that can produce 150,000 Aptera a year? So our goal is to spread solar mobility as far and wide as possible, and that means getting production numbers up as high as we can. That'll require multiple factories. So right now, Blake's financial model, our financial model shows about $200 million for that expansion effort, and then looking beyond that into building factories all the way out to 8 factories. We think in 2026 to 2030, we can really start to increase our margins and enhance our free cash flow, and be operating out of 6 to 8 plants in that time frame. And that gets us up to 140, 150,000 units of production a year. Did I leave anything out, guys? Any questions coming in that I should answer while we're talking about this particular slide?
There's a question about the first 3 to 6 months of production. They're wondering, can you give us an idea of the production ramp over the first?
We will talk about the production ramp in future slides, but it is kind of a 6-month ramp. It could be accelerated, if supply chain allows. It's mostly how quick can we get in the parts and pieces of the Aptera to actually really ramp the production of the Aptera. So, but right now it's kind of a 6-month ramp to be at real volume production from when we start to commission the line and start to move vehicles down the line and prepare ourselves. It could be as little as 3 months.
There's also just a question about the U.S. capital funds being available to Aptera.
Yeah, U.S. Capital is helping us to raise the remainder of our production funding needs. So we hope that this crowdfunding will go well. That's why we're all here talking about this. We'll talk about the specifics of the remaining crowdfunding at the end here, but basically we'll net some investment from the crowdfunding, and U.S. Capital is there to raise the rest of that money. It's a process. It will take some time, but we're hoping July and August that's in full swing, and as we get into after August, we'll be able to start deploying that capital as we have deployed the accelerator capital and the crowdfunding capital that we've received to date. Technical and sourcing. So now getting into, okay, we have a funding path, we have the money to do this. How do we align all the partners that we need to fill this facility with the parts and equipment to actually produce these vehicles? We have amazing strategic partners. We've obviously talked about CPC in Italy quite a bit. They've been amazing at making our body structures, our binks, but also aligning us with other suppliers for things like the chassis and suspension parts. They have a whole ecosystem of suppliers in Europe there. And the Italian government has been terribly supportive of our efforts, and we think we'll hopefully have some press on that you'll be seeing soon. Monroe & Associates, Sandy and his team have just been amazing at helping us design the facility to be truly lean manufacturing, to design the Aptera to be the most manufacturable vehicle in the world. We didn't stop at just being the most efficient vehicle in the world. We also wanted to be the most manufacturable, and it was amazing to meet Sandy so early on in our evolution that he could really impact the design such that we really have a manufacturable vehicle to the nth degree. And Chery Automotive is now the second largest auto manufacturer in China. They're the number 1 vehicle exporter in China, so they have tremendous leverage in their supply chain. And we've licensed 2 of their vehicle platforms and used parts from both of those vehicle platforms in the Aptera. So it's been it's been a boon for us to have access to such high quality parts that can make the Aptera even less expensive. We also have other great partners. Roush helped us design our suspension and our door closure system. They've done amazing engineering over the years for some of the biggest companies, some of the highest volume door programs in the world. So we could have hired a door team to design those doors, or we could have Roush do it, and we did choose to have Roush do it. Hersler Automotive for our glass supply, CT&S in Korea for our battery packs, Maxion for our solar cells, HSL in Italy for our lighting, and CoStamp for a lot of our die-cast aluminum parts. Some of this may be mildly repetitive. I know that a lot of you have really followed our story and kept up on what we're doing. Before the education of those that are new to our story and haven't paid as much attention to a lot of these presentations, I'll maybe go over some stuff that we covered in other presentations, which we've covered some of these suppliers before. But it's exciting to finally be at a point where we're putting a pin in all these supply agreements and really getting ready for production. So it's great progress by the team here, and especially Jordan on our supply chain team working through a lot of these agreements. CPC, we've shown a lot of these parts before, but it's amazing that we have already tooled volume production body parts. So all of the carbon fiber SMC, SMC stands for sheet molding compound, but the black parts are all carbon fiber SMC and the white parts are glass SMC. But we have the body tooling in Italy to produce hundreds and thousands of Aptera bodies already completed. So we're not waiting to commission tools. We're not waiting to validate, body parts. Those tools are done and ready for production. And tomorrow, we could turn on those presses and start producing hundreds of Apteras a day with these tools. So, and they're also very, very beautiful. So much metally goodness in some of these big tools, and to see some of these presses at CPC are just amazing. They're huge, 30-foot tall presses. They basically bring down a match mold with carbon fiber thermoset resin goo inside, and kind of like a waffle iron, they smash closed and they squeeze the carbon fiber thermoset resin out, and then you end up with a beautiful part like our rear hatch that has the lovely dimpled solar panel imprints on it, and it's actually only one piece, so I don't think people understand the sophistication of some of these carbon fiber SMC pieces. But that rear hatch, the inner and outer is all one piece. So when you open the rear hatch, you actually see the carbon fiber SMC from the bottom, and there's no kind of closed out two-piece clamshell part. A lot of automotive parts are 6, 7, 10, 12 pieces of steel that all have to kind of clamshell together and get positioned by robots and welded together. A great thing about this carbon fiber SMC is it's so strong and it's so workable into fine ridges and shapes that a lot of the parts we can get by with just one single plane of part instead of having 2, 3, 4, 12 parts come together to make that. So the rear hatch being one part and then the solar panel just bonding to the top of it is pretty amazing engineering, and we're really proud of that engineering. You can see the whole structure here, but it is very cool to have the largest carbon fiber SMC part in the world coming from CPC to us. Chris and Audra went over to Paris to an amazing composite show, and I think everybody was just super impressed with the sophistication of our parts, and that we're able to do such large parts in such an amazing vehicle like this, designed for efficiency. Talked about Monroe. Maxion supplies our solar cells. They're actually made in the Philippines, but Maxion has been a great partner, a development partner, and they're giving us access to some advanced technologies soon, which is really, really great. Some of the partners of these companies, Monroe has worked with some amazing companies, Ford, GM, BMW, Club Car. He's been just Cirrus Aircraft, NASA. And Tesla, obviously. He's just been an amazing partner to them to really help figure out, how to make the products that these big companies are making more efficiently, more profitably. Just crazy to think of his experience set and his team's experience set, and now that's really benefited Aptera long term. CPC works with some of the world's most amazing brands, supercars that you know and love. But it's really amazing to go to Italy and see some of the super sophisticated supercar products that they work on, and to note that we're getting some of that engineering talent in Aptera's design. Really, some Italian heritage in the Aptera body structure. So should feel good that we're in league with some of the world's greatest supercars. We've done an amazing job with our supply chain, getting parts sourced for the vehicle. Jordan has done an amazing job, closing out a lot of these, finding companies that can make them. We are still refining a lot of this, over time. We'll even though we've maybe chosen a supplier for one particular part, as we get closer to production and excitement gets more around Aptera, we will have suppliers call us and say, hey, you're putting this part on the Aptera. We build a very similar part. I bet we could build it cheaper for you. Can we quote it? And we'll get that quote. And if it's significantly lower and it has better quality, then yeah, we'll choose that supplier to put parts on our floor. As we get closer and closer to start of production, that list of potential will close. But it's amazing to see that we're 97% sourced now. We have 97% of the parts we need sourced. We know exactly where we're going to get it. We can go get it. It's just an effort now of maybe finding more cost-efficient suppliers for some of these as we get closer to start of production. But closures complete, Binkin exteriors complete, lighting, battery, solar complete. Interiors, we have some parts that the interior design was kind of lagging from the rest of the design, so there's still some parts. I think some of the center console stuff we haven't fully sourced out. Thermal, some of the thermal components were lagging as well. So we're still sourcing a couple of those things, and electromechanical devices in the EE team on the wiring harness still have a little bit of work to do, but looking in very, very good shape with our partners to have all the pieces and parts here for the Aptera to get to production. Validation and testing. This is the fun part. We're getting closer to production. We're seeing production intent vehicle builds getting complete. Now we get to try to break them. Now we get to put miles on the road. We get to have many people veering off of the freeway, while they're trying to take pictures of our testing vehicles driving around. So this is the fun stuff. Really broken the validation plans out into 4 different areas: structural, electrical, driving, and testing. The structural is really the composites, the body structure, how pieces are moving under real world driving conditions. All of our body components are bonded together, so making sure all those bonds are durable through regular driving cycle and pave and shaker type testing. This will end up on a shaker jig. It's a computer aided platform that basically shakes the vehicle around just like you would over 150,000 miles of driving durability. Body sealing is part of structural too. The door seals and how the windows are bonded on, the solar panels are bonded on and such. That's something that's important. You want to make sure that you have real longevity to those. Our solar panels are designed for 10 to 15 year service life, so everything that holds those solar panels on also has to last 10 to 15 years as well. On the electrical side, we've got several big areas, and because we control most of that, we'll have to go through a lot of testing and validation for those. But on the powertrain, the high voltage, the low voltage side, you're testing, that connectors are holding together through full durability, 150,000 miles, shaking, bumping, rubbing, those types of things. Low voltage, same thing, wire routing and making sure, everything's holding together over the long term. The driving cycle, that's, ride and handling, making sure, that the compliance and the suspension is good, making sure, that things feel the way they should, especially act in the way our simulation said they should act. And braking performance. Braking's a big one because, obviously you have to stop, but there's a lot of safety characteristics, automatic emergency braking and other stuff that have to be calibrated through your brake testing. Our general road testing, impact test, safety test, noise, vibration, harshness test, all those are kind of long-term tests. So as soon as we have, completed vehicles, we'll start just putting miles on those vehicles. So, we hope to have, somewhere near a million miles of testing on these vehicles before we start to hand them to anybody. But did we go through each slide?
Oh, I just went to it because you were talking about it.
Oh, I didn't know we broke that out to another slide.
Yeah.
But overall, some of these things have to play out in series, not in parallel. A lot of these tests can be done in parallel, but on the driving, the ride and handling side, we really have to have the suspension tuning and the shocks and the dampening all complete before we do the braking test. Because if you don't have your suspension fully tuned, then you go to do some testing on the brakes. It won't correlate. You can't go back and change some of the suspension and then redo the braking test. You got to finish the suspension and then do the braking, and you have to do the suspension and the braking before you do the crash testing. So they impact each other. So some of these things kind of have to run in series and not in parallel. So I think it'll be interesting to be able to share the information from these tests as they happen, but just keep in mind that some things are just going to take time because you have to finish one segment of testing before you can start the next segment of testing. We'll be doing a lot of accelerated life cycle testing, fatigue testing, environmental testing, load testing, really the durability testing that will hopefully help you be assured that your Aptera is going to be super durable and have great, longevity. We can put 1 million miles on the vehicle, but it's a lot of the load testing and environmental testing and fatigue testing that will show things, that may be very corner case failures, but we'd love to know now so we can take corrective action. We're currently building our PI vehicles, so our production intent vehicles. We're receiving parts and ordering parts right now. Hold on. We have most of the major systems on order. Some of the systems we have in-house, so they're a little easier to know when they're going to get here. Obviously, solar panels and battery is under our control. So, we're seeing those parts coming together now. A lot of those systems were kind of released the end of last month, and now we're just building those up. The battery module just finished its shaker table testing. I won't save the results because Chris is going to do a video, but all positive information. Our solar panels are being made here by Reed and his team, and we have a stock ready to be put on vehicles once they start to get ready here. We've got the Binks coming from Italy. That's the easy part, but a lot of the big metal parts, they were just released a few weeks ago. So we're still working with suppliers on getting a lot of the big die cast for the suspension, the frame, all that stuff has yet to come. But we did engage a supplier, I think, yesterday, and the lead time is not that long. So we expect to start seeing chassis parts here by the end of the month or early next month. The electrical team is doing an amazing job finishing up the wiring harness and getting all the connectors and bits ready. We got a Bink here from Italy to finish the pathing for all that stuff, where the pass-throughs are in the body to other pieces and parts. There's a little more of that to do once we receive the chassis and all the big metal bits. You would think that in the computer you could spin stuff around and see exactly how stuff fits and passes through other things and does interference stuff, but some of the stuff still has to be done in the real world. So you just have to wait until you get the actual part here and then make the final adjustments once you have the parts to actually put the pieces on. Our initial production ramp, we're sitting here in our beautiful almost 80,000 square foot facility here in Southern California. This is where the first Aptera will roll off the assembly line into your and other people's hands. This facility is capable of about 20,000 vehicles a year. Every shift can produce about 10,000 a year. So with 2 shifts, we can do about 20,000 vehicles a year. But this facility, was amazingly optimized by Sandy Monroe and his team. We've got great partners in robotics and filling stations and the battery pack automation from CTNS in Korea, and Bent River for some of the solar equipment, how we're making those pieces and parts. This is where we've come from. This is where we're going. So, the last few years have been prototyping and development and zeroing in on what the production version of the vehicle should be. Really, the end of last year was the design is frozen. Now, how do we build this production vehicle? Now we're through this webinar and our other efforts with U.S. Capital, gathering the funds to actually start production. And if we can do that through this year, then in 2025 we'll start handing people the keys to their Aptera. We expect that the initial ramp will take a little while. So commissioning the lines and then ramping up the facility will probably take 3 to 6 months, and then we'll be at full production. So we hope to deliver about 5,000 units by the end of 2025, and we hope to in 2026 be able to deliver about 20,000 units. Some of this could be accelerated if things go really well, if we're able to close out this crowdfunding strong, if we're able to, with U.S. Capital, gather funds quickly. We can look into other funding options after that to accelerate our timeline. But this is our current plan. This is how we've laid it out. And this is what we talked about earlier when we talked about the $65 million that we need this year. That plan gets us these amount of deliveries, and hopefully makes a lot of people happy. I think we'll become a much more interesting company once you see retail Aptera out driving in the real world and people enjoying them and telling their friends how solar mobility has changed their lives. And I think it's a totally different world for us once we really start to see the Aptera on the road. Our customers, we have an amazing customer and fan base. Most of them are in the U.S., some of them are in Europe, a little bit in Canada. We have an amazing cross-section across just the U.S., but mostly in California, Florida, Texas, so the Smile States, where people get a lot of sun, which is where the Aptera will perform amazingly too. By gender, we have many more male people that love Aptera, but we are hopefully getting to spread our story and get a lot more female engagement over time. I think that the first couple years of our existence, we were really only noted in tech publications and people that are interested in science. Most of those readers are male. So as we get closer to production and we get more mainstream coverage, I think we'll get more female, more younger audience people engaged with us. This is how we plan to roll out. This is kind of our heat map of where all our orders are. Obviously, you can see hot in Texas and Florida and California. But we have this amazing accelerator program where we have 2,000 people taking delivery of the Aptera in California. Those will be the first deliveries. Hopefully those will be able to spread the Aptera not just around America, but around the world. It gets us a lot of amazing press. It will hopefully allow us to complete the rest of the funding plan that we showed you in the first couple slides. We think the accelerator program is going to do so much for the company in terms of exposure and really help us in our growth path. We have our initial reservation holders after that that will receive the vehicles, and then I think things start to really heat up for us. We're going to have distribution centers across the nation to be able to help with delivery services, training, show you how to use your vehicle. But really we have some states that are really easy to sell into and some states that are harder to sell into. So some states like California have very little restrictions on how we sell the Aptera. So you can order it through the website, we can ship it to you, everybody's happy. There's other states where they're a little more persnickety, Michigan being one of them, where they have really strong dealer laws, so you can only sell vehicles through dealers, and that makes it more difficult. We've partnered with some tribes to be able to deliver Aptera on tribal land, and then be able to ship to some of these places. So it'll be a little more unique delivery situation in some states. But the phase 1 states are many, and most of our orders, so we don't see a lot of terrible resistance. But then getting the Aptera internationally is we've got a lot of orders internationally, so we want to see the Aptera across the world as soon as possible. We want to be able to build plants in the Netherlands and Australia and Germany and Spain, so we aspire to do that as quickly as we can too. Our brand appeal is strong. We've done a few surveys now, and it's amazing that just by seeing the vehicle, about 40% amongst 18 to 24-year-olds say yes, I like that. I think I could live with that and drive that. It's interesting to see us compared to other vehicles, people preferring the Aptera more than the Model 3 or the Nissan Leaf or the Chevy Bolt, and we think that that's amazing progress. Not a lot of people 10 years ago even had a concept of what EVs could be, but now the Tesla Model 3 being the most popular vehicle in the world, to see the Aptera being more preferred than some of these other vehicles is just an amazing place to be. Our brand engagement, we've had some amazing YouTube coverage, and our own channel gets great engagement. We think that's just going to feed our progress and our growth. Speaking of our progress and our growth, we want to talk about some of our other. Was this a video?
I don't know. It's usually a cool graphic.
Oh. Well, we have a cool exploded graphic of our solar here, but it's not showing up
That's so funny.
on the screen. We'll post that to our social media later so you can see it. But our solar technology is compelling. It's automotive grade, it's super lightweight, it's robust, it's 10 to 15 year cycle life. It's really the first of its kind to be able to withstand the harshness of an automotive environment. So we're really proud of the technology, and also, the power conversion that goes along with it. So how do you take 30 to 60 volts from your solar panel in a distributed way and in a maximum power point tracking way, and then throw it into a high voltage 400 800 volt battery pack? We've partnered with some amazing people. This is Polydrops. They make a really cool travel trailer. It's faceted composites, so it's one of Steve Fambro's dreams to have a faceted composites product that is lightweight, and these guys are doing just that up in LA. So really cool travel trailers, and they came to us and said, the supply of panels that they currently have out of Asia, it just doesn't last very long. It degrades very, very quickly. So how could they put an automotive grade panel on this and get their users much more power? This is a pretty small trailer, you can see, but that panel was actually producing about 1,200 watts of power. So it's a good amount of power from our package, and we think this is a perfect application. And this kind of recreational environment has kind of limitless possibilities, we think, for our Aptera lightweight automotive grade solar technologies. We've also partnered with a great team at Averest. They work on ground support equipment, so the tugs that take your luggage around the airport, the pushback equipment that pushes back your plane. All of those guys are trying to get out of propane and diesel, and they're trying to get into electric. So as they try to get into electric, electrons matter, and they're spending lots of money on big battery packs. And the interesting thing about the air transportation world is everybody stocks the equipment for the heavy travel days. So Christmas. Imagine Christmas, there's lots of passengers, there's lots of baggage, there's lots of equipment needed to run the airport. But for most of the year, that equipment's just sitting around. So you can imagine that if you have technicians that are working on this and they forget to plug in a $60,000 battery pack as it sits around for the next high travel time, you can kill that battery pack. So working with Avris and their technical team, we've been able to integrate our solar onto some of these products. We have a great pilot program with one of the world's largest airlines. We're working on a second airline to do the same thing. So to see Aptera solar when you go to the airport will be a very, very cool thing. So robust automotive grade solar put into utility equipment like this, and our power conversion devices getting the power out of these cells in a very efficient way back to the battery packs of these devices. We see a big opportunity in fleets for the Aptera. Solar powered transportation is, we think, a gift to the world. But consumers don't really think about the variable cost of their transportation and the fuel that it takes for the transportation. The Aptera can cover, most of your daily driving needs, and we hope that, everyone here, when they get their Aptera, 98% of your fuel is covered by the sun. But people that are driving gas vehicles or even electric vehicles today, they're just not really thinking about the cost of that. But fleets are really concerned about the cost of fueling their vehicles. So you can imagine that there's a lot of fleet opportunities for Aptera where our total cost of ownership, the cost of the power, the cost of your batteries, the cost of brake changes, the cost of changing your oil, all those kind of rolled into your total cost of ownership. And we're less than half of the total cost of ownership over 10 years versus a Toyota Camry. And you have a lot of companies that want to go electric, that want to go green, but they don't want to have to install the charging infrastructure to charge, say, 100 regular electric vehicles. The utility is going to say that's too much power. We don't have enough power for you to charge 100 of a typical EV on your property. So they go, okay, well, what do we do? Okay, well, maybe we get a bunch of properties around town and we have little small charging lots where they can dump enough power to charge our fleet vehicles. The Aptera totally gets rid of that. The vehicles are being charged by the sun. You can have 1,000 Aptera in a parking lot, all being charged by the sun. Everybody's happy. If you are exceeding kind of 40 miles a day in your usage, okay, what do you do? Well, you only need a very small, 1,300 watt cord, a regular extension cord from your garage to charge the Aptera back 150 miles overnight. So even in places where there's limited power, getting an extension cord type charging device to an Aptera is very, very easy compared to a $5,000 EV charger that has to have 240 volt, 50 amp service to each one, and they're consuming a lot of power. So we can see, a lot of service industry, a lot of checking meters, a lot of security, a lot of things like that being just the perfect place for Aptera. And we think our three-wheeled vehicle will evolve into other more utilitarian platforms. We'll take out the passenger seat. You'll be able to have that be more utility. We'll have a rear hatch that has more storage, possibly open like a clamshell so you can get packages in and out, deliveries in and out. But think of Uber Eats and FedEx and utility guys and security guys. We think that in the long term, we could be selling more fleet vehicles than we are selling consumer vehicles. So we think there's some great opportunity. And this graph created by Blake showing our total cost of ownership is just an amazing example of where the rest of the industry is and where Aptera is. We get so much more range, we're so much easier to charge because we're so much more efficient. And when fleet owners are kind of making purchase decisions, this graph says it all. It's about total cost of ownership and the performance of the vehicle and all the infrastructure that you need to make those things happen. Now I wanted to bring Blake to talk through our IPO strategy and some more of our growth. But this leads right into the offering terms that we have here, and then we can take some questions.
Your seat. Sorry for the loud noise,
Sorry.
everybody.
We got loud for a little bit.
All right.
I'm gonna move the camera so you can see Blake How's that? Is that good, Casey?
Blake's our amazing VP of Finance, and he helps create the financial model and does a lot of the legwork and our compliance stuff and our crowdfunding offerings. So wanted him here to help answer some questions. So.
Great. Let's do it.
Our IPO strategy. We're positioned well to be a regular reporting company with the SEC. Blake and our team works hard, but what's involved in really a regular reporting to the SEC now?
We have lots of filings to do about the Regulation A offering that we had open before. We have the new offerings that we've just posted on the SEC website, so we stay to maintain those and the continued offerings that we have as we start to carve our way in the path to go public.
We think the right time to go public is when we're just starting to ship vehicles in volume. So we think that proves the technology, it proves that people really want it, and it proves that we can make it in a volume fashion at a rate and a profitability that makes sense for long-term viability. The process to go public takes about 6 to 9 months. It involves a lot of lawyers and a lot of accountants.
It's going to be a ton of fun. It's one of the main reasons why I joined the team. I'm really looking forward to it, but we'll be scaling up quite a bit when we go through that process.
And amazing news that we've actually been approved by the NASDAQ for the use of the ticker symbol SUNA. So SUNA is the word. Hard A.
SUNA.
It's a sunny day.
Tell everyone.
It's
SUNA.
It's the future's bright and sunny for Aptera. I'm sure your comments could maybe phrase it in many other ways, but we like sunny. Being a public entity would really allow us more funding options. So, once we're a public company, we have more public liquidity. It just really opens up the different funding options that we have to grow the company. So, we think that it could be amazingly valuable to our growth, and it could allow us to do a lot of things that maybe we couldn't do as a private company. We think we have an amazing story too, so we think that the kind of public traction that we could have could be like really no other companies had. We have over 17,000 investors in Aptera now, so that's a huge crowd. We have over 1 million people following us on social media. We have an email newsletter list of over 100,000 people that we get tremendous engagement numbers out of. So when we're talking to New York types and big bank types about our IPO strategy, they all get really excited about the possibilities for us. So it brings us to our current offering and how we get into position to do an IPO. Our current Reg CF offering is on the website that you're currently on. So if you scroll down and read the offering circular, you can click on the invest button and actually invest at $10.50 a share. This offering is for a maximum of $5 million, and you can invest until June 30th. But it's not just this Reg CF offering. If you're an accredited investor, you can also invest in what's called our Reg D offering. So as you go through the investment process, if you check the box that says accredited, you can actually get up to 10% bonus shares on your investment if you invest as an accredited investor. So we think that will really help close out the crowdfunding strong and give us more capital to build out the facility and ramp quicker and do all the things that we're trying to do, including ramp into our U.S. capital raise after this. But any comments on the Reg D or how people should think about that?
No, we opened up these two offerings to keep the crowdfunding rolling till the end of June 30th before the cutoff that we have with U.S. Capital. So go ahead and invest in that. The Reg D doesn't have the max of $5 million, so you can kind of participate in that to whatever level you want. But the Reg CF for non-accredited investors will be capped out at 5.
No. We think that the future is amazingly sunny for Aptera. So we hope that you all will join our journey and support us in any way you can. We're terribly humbled by the amount of support that we've gotten so far. To the 17,000 plus investors, thank you so much for your support. We know we're going to close out this crowdfunding strong, and we're going to be ready to tackle the future. So maybe some questions now, and we can answer anything you guys are curious about, guys or girls.
Yeah, go ahead.
Alrighty, first questions from
Look over there and kind of say it into the mic.
Oh,
We can hear it.
working on our Red Bull sponsorship too.
Okay, first question is from Tony. I was recently at the Long Beach Electrify Expo, where another vehicle manufacturer present said they were using Aptera solar panel technology on their vehicle. I was impressed with the amount of solar generation they were able to fit on their vehicle. Can you provide us any figures about how much more efficient or energy dense your solar panel technology is compared to other vehicle solar PV solutions?
That's a terribly technical question, so I'll have to punt on most of it. But but the coatings that we use on our panels are much better than what you can find in kind of the retail market. I would hazard to put a number on it without really talking to Reed, but it's got to be in the 10 to 20% more efficient range just because of the different coatings that we use. But also our amazing partner Maxeon, we get a very specialized cell from them that's more efficient than what you'll typically find in the market. You'll find 17 to 20% efficiency in the typical market, stuff you can find on Amazon type products. We're up to over 24% efficient now, and we actually have some ways to go above and beyond that, hopefully here in the near future. So our cells are more efficient, and the coatings that we use on the cells are more efficient. So when you add all that together, yeah, we could conceivably be significantly more efficient than kind of anything else you can get out there in the landscape.
Can you speak more about the delivery plan? You mentioned partnering with tribes. This is very interesting. So what kind of distribution?
Yeah, our distribution plan mostly is we hope that people will come to the facility to have their Aptera delivered, and we can take you on a test drive. We can have somebody teach you how to use the Aptera, and you can kind of have a delivery experience here, and then you can drive home, whether it be 200 miles or 2,000 miles. You will have to charge a couple times if you're going 2,000 miles. But we think that factory experiences are great for delivery options. But as we stretch out and get bigger, people will want to have their vehicles delivered all across the nation. And there's some areas that you just can't deliver our vehicles because you have to have a dealership in that state. And we may not want to open a dealership. So partnering with tribal lands, because they are a sovereign state, you could actually receive your Aptera on tribal land. So working with communities, which are often economically depressed, adds jobs to different tribes around the nation, and gives them some economic advantages because the tribes have taxes on delivery just like the state would too. So it's a great kind of middle ground to where we can have delivery in states that have more stiff restrictions and also benefit underserved tribal communities around the nation. So.
Okay, next question is from Matthew. Will the funding via U.S. capital be equity, debt, or some combination of both?
We expect it's a combination,
Yeah.
but the terms will be worked out hopefully this week, and we'll be able to know more about that. And once the SEC approves that and FINRA approves that, then we'll be able to send a link around, and people can actually view that the details of that offering themselves.
Yeah, we've done a lot of due diligence to get through the process with U.S. Capital, and we're very close to being able to announce the specific terms on that. So look forward to that coming before the end of the month.
It is a different kind of round, though. It's not a round that's like open to the public like this.
Right.
So U.S. Capital has their own process and their own partners and their own base of people to complete that round. So, but they're excited. We have calls with them regularly, and they're excited to get going, and we're excited to work with them. They're an amazingly capable global group. And we think they'll be a great long-term partner, not just for this round, but for things we need in the future and as we go public and beyond.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Mary Lynn. Do you think this current crowdfunding will be the last, with IPO happening in the first part of 2025?
We do think that we may hold the option open to do future crowdfunding. You never know the timing of an IPO, so we may keep the option open to do more crowdfunding. But our anticipation is that we finish this crowdfunding, we complete the U.S. capital round, and then we're looking at bigger funding strategies with government support or big loans or an IPO or all sorts of things. How the timing of all that and how that interplays is, we're a startup, and the number one skill we have to have is being flexible and being nimble. So we will continue to do that.
Yeah, it's going to play heavily with how we work with U.S. Capital and the investors that they bring our way. So it'll be in a combination with that.
Great. How many Aptera might you produce during the 6-month production ramp up, and how will they be used? Will any be delivered to accelerator investors?
Yeah, we expect the ramp up to be deliverable vehicles. So accelerator investors will be delivered their vehicles, and hopefully be willing to work with us. Obviously we want to follow all the initial vehicles to make sure there's no problems. We'll do a lot of internal testing and durability and shakeout here, so we'll find a lot of those little problems. But the first 2,000 vehicles that go out there, they'll be very valuable information gathering devices. Improving the user interface experience. This button's in the wrong place. It'd be much easier if it was higher contrast or in a different spot or stuff like that. Little things like that, I think, will become of those first vehicles. But the ramp over the first 6 months, I mean, it's several hundred vehicles. I'm trying to total it up in my mind, but
that first 6 months of ramp is really the hardest to predict for us. So it'll depend on the timing of the funding coming in and how we're executing on those steps to get that figured out. Once we get closer to that date, we can share those numbers.
And importantly, the supply chain. Some getting those parts in early. Some suppliers will be like, "You want 1,000 of them tomorrow? We can ship 1,000 of them tomorrow." Some will be like, "It's hard for us to ramp up too." So it would help us if we ramped up and shipped you 50, and then 50, and then 100, and then 200. It's a lot of supply chain coordination too. So funding and supply chain are really what dictate that. But it's several hundred to commission the line and really get things ramped up here. And then after that 3 to 6 month period of ramp up, then it's basically full bore, build as many as you can per shift, 40 per shift. And if we add a second shift, it's 80 per day. And that gets you to about 20,000 vehicles a year.
Okay, Ryan would like to know, will the self-directed IRA investments end on June 30th as well?
Yes, the self-directed IRAs are going into, they can end up in either round. They can end up in the Reg CF if you're not accredited. If you're accredited, they'll end up in the Reg D, and you'll have the bonus share option. But we're going to cut that off at June 30th as well. So all of that needs to stop so that U.S. Capital can go forward with their raise at that point.
Keith would like to know, is Aptera already monetizing the partnerships with Polydrops and Everest? If not, when does Aptera expect to monetize these and other partnerships?
Depends on what you mean by monetization, but yes, there's money involved.
Have you been in discussions with Tesla to allow Aptera to use their supercharging network?
Once we start to go through validation of our supercharging capabilities, that gets to be more of a question. But yeah, we've worked great with integrating the NACS connector, and the protocols aren't really that hard to set up. And right now you can take an Aptera off the shop floor and charge with your Tesla app. So it's really the integration on the back end, the billing side, that has to happen. So it's not really a technical hurdle. It's more like a business relationship hurdle. But we're blessed to have access to the NACS connector, and we can't wait to see people driving the Aptera around cross country and stopping at superchargers and taking a quarter of the time to charge their Aptera versus everybody else around them. It'll be a really cool thing to see.
So we're offering accelerators, tours, some of them even get lunches with Chris and Steve. When will those be available for scheduling?
Now.
Oh, now. All right, great. Bidirectional charging, when is that planned to be available?
Bidirectional charging is part of the charging algorithm, so it's not really something that we would do. It would be the company that supplies the charger and the current supplier of the charger, I think, has that capability, but I don't think any of the chargers that we have in-house currently have that capability, and I don't know the timeline on that. But yes, we anticipate having bidirectional charging capability. Whether it ships with some of the first vehicles, I don't know, but it is a feature that's relatively easy to add.
You've said that after the first couple hundred vehicles are built, some production lines, such as chassis and battery, will be moved from overseas to California. How long will this move take, and how long of a pause in production will there be?
Kind of like the monetization question, it's all about the money.
Yeah, I wouldn't say a couple hundred vehicles. It's going to be a little bit more than that before we move those over to the U.S.
We're talking years.
Yeah, it's a longer timeline. It's going to be partnering with that relationship in order to figure that out. But I know that the funding that we're going after in the U.S. Government, they're heavily depending on that as well. So it's a step that we're definitely going to take.
Yeah, the government support in the U.S. for manufacturing is strong, maybe not as much on the technology side. We're also finding pretty strong support for technologies overseas in Europe. So it's kind of a fight between, what agency is most willing to financially support some of the production stuff. But we like the idea of onshoring the battery stuff very early, onshoring some of the body part production over time, and hopefully have everything built in America as we grow.
Yeah, battery will be coming over.
The battery's quick.
Yeah.
But the presses for the composite parts are very big, and they take some time. I mean, it's the lead times on equipment like that is long.
Our investor Mark has a question about his investment. He says he's invested about $1,500, and he's curious if the investment is cumulative between all of the crowdfunding campaigns, so the CF, the D, the A. If he's able to qualify for perks through the different rounds. So if he's invested some in the CF and some in the D and some in the A, can he qualify for various investment perks?
Thanks for the support, Mark. The answer is yes, but it may take some time because some of these investments, the Reg D and the Reg CF, it may take a few months to actually fully clear the investment, and then you have to make sure they're cohesive in ComputerShare, right?
Correct. Yeah, the Reg CF works a little bit differently than the other offerings that we've done. So there's a minimum time frame before we can close those out. So you'll see a little bit of a delay, maybe a few weeks before those start to show up in ComputerShare like your previous shares.
Yeah. The only one is that 1,000 coupon, right? Because that was after a certain day. So it's like,
Yeah.
if you could say that.
The $2,000 offer ended?
No,
It started.
It started at a certain date, so if you invested
Correct.
$2,000 a long time
Oh,
ago,
yeah. So if you invest $2,000 now, then you get a $1,000 coupon on your vehicle purchase. But that just started last year. So if you didn't invest by that date, then you don't get that offer. But everything else is cumulative.
Yeah.
Good question, Mark.
Do you have a timeline on when Aptera reservation holders might be able to have an estimated delivery date?
We hope that once we've ramped into production, we'll have much more accurate timeframes for delivery. That still is a bit suspect because we think that once vehicles hit the road, people are going to be really excited, which also increases our ability to raise funding and grow the company and align with strategic partners and the like. So that could accelerate our ability to build. You can imagine that once 1,000 Aptera are on the road and we're getting a lot of press and people are really impressed by the idea of solar mobility, that we could find a partner that says, hey, we want to build you a plant in Texas tomorrow. And we have just a facility and it's already up and it already has power and all you have to do is bring your robots over here and build. We're like, okay, sweet. That's 6 months faster than we thought we could ramp into a second factory, but great, we'll take the win. So we'll estimate, delivery dates after we start production according to the financial model that Blake and his team has created. But that could be accelerated in a number of ways just because people are excited. People are excited about the Sene possibilities.
Will early accelerator vehicles or launch edition vehicles have the ability to upgrade certain parts or components, such as resistive heating or Comma AI, different things like that?
That's a good question. I would say it really depends on what the feature is. Obviously, trading your 45 kilowatt hour battery pack for a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack may be harder because you have to have suspension changes and maybe a new belly pan and a lot of other different things. Some things like, upgrading your Comma AI to the latest, hardware version, we would probably control that and we would be able to just ship you whatever the new hardware is. To use that. So a lot of the features may be relatively easy, and we'll obviously try to future-proof anything we design, and the electrical team, will make provisions for that, but it probably really depends on what it is.
Sean's asked, will the future of the company depend on continued growth, or will it be able to stabilize and still be profitable?
That's an interesting question, but obviously the goal is to stabilize and be profitable. So cash flow positivity is king. This is my 9th startup. So I've been through the cash flow game, I've been through the cash flow ringer, and trust me, life gets a lot easier when you're cash flow positive.
Yeah. We will definitely be growing from here.
Yeah. Once you're cash flow positive, you're not worried about your longevity, because you're making money. So how you invest that money and the amount of cash flow positive is how quickly you grow. So we expect to be able to make really good margins because we have a really supportive community that loves the idea of solar mobility, and we think that everyone on this call, and hopefully that is invested in the company and supporting the company, wants to spread solar mobility as far and wide as possible. So that means growth, because producing more vehicles makes the world a better place. So.
There's a lot of indications that our IP portfolio will be able to help us grow into different segments as well.
Yep.
Okay, next question is from Jason. He's wondering if you anticipate any price changes to the vehicles or if they will be fairly similar.
That's a good question. We priced these vehicles and announced pricing 3 years ago. Just inflation over the last 2 years accounts for probably 30% of the rise of cost of almost everything you see around you today. So we anticipate that at least the cost of inflation has hit almost all of our bill of materials. But in some places it's actually the opposite. Some prices have gone down. Aluminum prices and copper prices have gone down significantly over the last 6 to 9 months. Same thing with battery cell pricing and other stuff. So, part of the gift of kind of the slow funding that we've had is that we've had more time to sort out supply agreements and let the supply chain calm down after COVID. We're thankful that some of the bill of materials has actually gone down. So how that affects total pricing over time, we haven't speculated yet, because as we get closer to production, we'll finally have locked down all of the master supply agreements with people. And once we have locked down all the supply agreements with people on what they're going to be supplying to the factory floor and at what price, then we can say, okay, this is how much that rolls up to actually deliver these first vehicles. And we know the first ones will be more expensive to build, but hey, 6 months after we deliver the first one, we expect things to calm down and we expect to be cash flow positive, and everybody's kind of happy, and this is what we're comfortable selling the vehicle at. It's $35,294, and that works with our financial model. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but that's kind of the basics.
Yeah.
Thank you. Joel is wondering why there is not the ability to choose between a limited menu of wraps for the vehicles.
A great question, which harkens back to our manufacturing model and Sandy's suggestion to be the most manufacturable vehicle in the world means you can't paint it, because the paint shop is very expensive and time consuming, and you'll spend half of your expertise just figuring out the damn paint. The CPC relationship gets us beautiful exterior body panels that right after that part comes out of the mold, you can put a sticker on it, and the sticker can be any color you want. The problem for us initially is we don't want to have a wrap shop in addition to our factory floor. So just choosing one launch color makes it much easier. You have one corner of the shop that's 300 square feet that the vehicles are wrapped at before they actually ship out the door. And it only has one color wrap, so they're all cut the same. You know, you'll have a cut pattern, and then 2 people will apply the wrap to each vehicle. Storing 15 different colors of that wrap gets very cumbersome, and then you have to, you know, assign the color to the wrap at the end. We have talked about shipping the vehicles sans wrap. So maybe when you order the vehicle, you can check a box that says, I don't want you to wrap it. So at the end, we tell people, okay, don't worry about wrapping it. We're just going to ship it to this person. And when that person receives it, we'll be able to send a local shop a DXF file, a drawing file for how to cut the wrap. And they'll cut it for you. And then hopefully in just a couple hours, they can make your Aptera pink or purple or all the colors of the rainbow or patterns or Hello Kitty or
Yeah, my preference.
my daughter's terribly into Sanrio, so she loves the Hello Kitty and the cinnamon roll, the bunny. So her Aptera will probably have the bunny on it somewhere.
Yeah, Paw Patrol would probably be my
Patrol.
choice. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, this question is from the Gales. They would like you to clarify your statement about accelerator deliveries. Is California first, or are accelerator deliveries first?
Accelerator deliveries are first.
Absolutely.
Okay. Scott wants to know, does Aptera have or plan to put into place lobbyists or any other means to qualify for the EV tax credit? Are those plans in place, and can we get an update on progress?
Yeah, Dwayne with the Livingston Group has been lobbying on our behalf for quite a while, and we're working on just that right now. The ability of Congress to pass sane legislation is maybe more difficult than we. Getting the government to do things that we want to do is very difficult. So I would say we don't have a time frame for when that could happen or why, but we are working on it.
But that lobbying group has done a ton of great work for us. They're
yeah.
a huge supporter of our team. They're a big reason why we're able to, lock in that CEC grant. So we have a big thank you out to those guys at the Livingston Group.
Yep.
Can you comment on the new Reg CF Issuance Express webpage? There's a maximum allowed investment amount, and what that is.
What that means?
It's probably because the maximum we can raise from non-accredited investors on the Reg CF is $5 million. So we can't have.
And is there a percentage of their income?
Oh, as of a percentage, yes, there are some percentage of income regulations on there that I don't know specifically, but we'll have an FAQ that'll address any of those specific questions that'll be posted on the site today.
Thank you.
Great. Paul, he's very community minded, just like us. He wants to know that once we launch, will they be able to know who in their area owns an Aptera? It would be great to have a local community support system where we can opt in for sharing name, email, location for other Aptera owners in their area.
Yeah, I think as we start to deliver Apteras, we'll start to create the systems to continue to community build. We hope that in your vehicle app, you can share your vehicle experience with other people around you, mostly in that, hey, I made 4.7 kilowatt hours of power today. How much did you make? So we can get people to compete on how much power they're able to produce. But hopefully have some communication built in there so people can also meet up and talk about Aptera and share their experiences and encourage other people to jump on the solar mobility bandwagon.
Okay, thank you.
Next question is from Jacob. He wants to know when production hiring will happen, and if you have an idea of how many people you might need to hire for a shift of 6,000, 10,000, 20,000 vehicles.
Yeah, the production staff is really slated for 10,000 vehicles a year. There's probably 30 people in the actual assembly of the vehicle, and then another 50 in support. So we'll be looking to hire first shift people probably in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in coming to work with us and making the world a sun-air place, then look for job recs. We put them out on our website.
Okay, this is questions from Matthew. At what stage will you consider additional vehicle models, like those with more seats, etc.?
We're considering them now, but you know, the three-wheeled vehicle we think holds lots and lots of promise, not just for the consumer market, but also for the commercial market. So those fleet vehicle sales will kind of be the next step in our evolution. So get this first initial vehicle launched, deliver on our 47,000 orders, and then talk about how do we build fleet vehicles that meet the needs of delivery and service around the U.S. Then, okay, how do we take aerodynamic efficiency, solar powered, and put it into other forms and shapes for either larger applications or, you know, who knows what sorts of forms that will take. But there may have been an Easter egg in this presentation that could show you what forms those could take. But we may be about out of time here for questions. Is there anything
Wrap it up in a bow.
pressing? Wrapping it up in a bow. We think the future is very sunny for Aptera, and we're so appreciative of everybody here jumping in on this call and asking great questions. And jump to the bottom of the investor site to read our frequently asked questions if you have any thoughts. And feel free to reach out to our communication team if you have any bigger direct questions. But I appreciate everyone, and it's amazing to finally be here with Aptera, talking about production, talking about finally being delivered the first production intent parts, and how we're going to actually ramp into delivering you your Aptera. So thank you so much, everyone. Have an amazing day, and see you soon.